I'm Sarah Degner-Riveros, and I'm on the board of the Eastside Freedom Library. Let's see, probably first heard about the Eastside Freedom Library by seeing events on social media and noticed that it was right in my neighborhood. I live on the East Side. I'm a single mom of 5 kids, and so at first I was curious about what was going on, but not sure, whether there were events for my whole family. And so I think the first few events that I attended were mindful self-compassion, meeting in the basement of the library. And then I brought my kids to some events like the Labor Day picnic, celebrating labor rights movement, workers' rights, and the work of organizers, making a way for just wages and better working conditions for all of us. So those were the first things I attended as I was starting to get more involved. I'm going to be reading from Bless Mi Última, Bendíceme Última in Spanish, by Rudolfo Anaya. He is from New Mexico, and so this is borderlands literature from the border between United States and Mexico. This is the first novel that I read in Spanish when I was in high school, and I'm reading from the English today. Uno. Última came to stay with us the summer I was almost 7. When she came, the beauty of the llano unfolded before my eyes, and the gurgling waters of the river sang to the hum of the turning earth. The magical time of childhood stood still, and the pulse of the living earth pressed its memory into my living blood. She took my hand, and the silent magic powers she possessed made beauty from the raw, sun-baked llano, the green river valley, and the blue bowl, which was the white sun's home. My bare feet felt the throbbing earth, and my body trembled with excitement. Time stood still, and it shared with me all that had been and all that was to come. Let me begin at the beginning. I do not mean the beginning that was in my dreams and the stories they whispered to me about my birth and the people of my father and mother and my 3 brothers, but the beginning that came with Última. The attic of our home was partitioned into 2 small rooms. My sisters, Deborah and Teresa, slept in one, and I slept in the small cubicle by the door. The wooden steps creaked down into a small hallway that led into the kitchen. From the top of the stairs, I had a vantage point into the heart of our home, my mother's kitchen. From there, I was to see the terrified face of Chavez when he brought the terrible news of the murder of the sheriff. I was to see the rebellion of my brothers against my father, and many times late at night I was to see Última, returning from the llano where she gathered the herbs that can be harvested only in the light of the full moon by the careful hands of a curandera. That night I lay very quietly in my bed, and I heard my father and mother speak of Última. Estás sola, my father said. Ya no queda gente en el pueblito de las pasturas. He spoke in Spanish, and the village he mentioned was his home. My father had been a vaquero all his life, a calling as ancient as the coming of the Spaniard to Nuevo Mexico. Even after the big rancheros and the tejanos came and fenced the beautiful llano, he and those like him continued to work there. I guess because only in that wide expanse of land and sky could they feel the freedom their spirits needed. Que lástima, my mother answered, and I knew her nimble fingers worked the pattern on the doily she crocheted for the big chair in the sala. I heard her sigh, and she must have shuddered too when she thought of Última, living alone in the loneliness of the wide llano. My mother was not a woman of the llano. She was the daughter of a farmer. She could not see beauty in the llano, and she could not understand the coarse men who lived half their lives on horseback. After I was born in Las Pasturas, she persuaded my father to leave the llano and bring her family to the town of Guadalupe, where she said there would be opportunity and school for us. The move lowered my father in the esteem of his compadres and other vaqueros of the llano who clung tenaciously to their way of life and freedom. There was no room to keep animals in the town, so my father had to sell his small herd. But he would not sell his horse, so he gave it to a good friend, Benito Campos. But Campos could not keep the animal penned up because somehow the horse was very close to the spirit of the man, and so the horse was allowed to roam free, and no vaquero on that llano would throw a lasso on that horse. It was as if someone had died, and they turned their gaze from the spirit that walked the earth. It hurt my father's pride. He saw less and less of his old compadres. He went to work on the highway, and on Saturdays, after they collected their pay, he drank with his crew at the Longhorn, but he was never close to the men of the town. Some weekends, the llaneros would come into town for supplies, and old amigos like Bani or Campos or the Gonzalez brothers would come by to visit. Then my father's eyes lit up as they drank and talked of the old days and told the old stories. But when the western sun touched the clouds with orange and gold, the vaqueros got in their trucks and headed home, and my father was left to drink alone in the long night. Sunday morning he would get up very crudo and complain about having to go to early mass. She served the people all her life, and now the people are scattered, driven like tumbleweeds by the winds of war. The war sucks everything dry, my father said solemnly. It takes the young boys overseas, and their families move to California, where there is work. Ave Maria Purissima, my mother made the sign of the cross for my 3 brothers, who were away at war. Gabriel, she said to my father, it is not right that La Grande be alone in her old age. No, my father agreed. When I married you and went to the llano to live with you and raise your family, I could not have survived without La Grande's help. Oh, those were hard years. Those were good years, my father countered. But my mother would not argue. There isn't a family she did not help, she continued. No road was too long for her to walk to its end to snatch somebody from the jaws of death, and not even the blizzards of the llano could keep her from the appointed place where a baby was to be delivered. Es verdad, my father nodded. She tended me at the birth of my sons. And then I knew her eyes glanced briefly at my father. Gabriel, we cannot let her live her last days in loneliness. No, my father agreed. It is not the way of our people. It would be a great honor to provide a home for La Grande, my mother murmured. My mother called Ultima La Grande out of respect. It meant the woman was old and wise.
Okay, my name is Grit, and I am a first year here at Augsburg University. I decided to participate in today's project because I feel like books shouldn't be banned, even if they do contain explicit content to some extent, because I feel like books are meant to teach you a lesson. And if you stop people from reading, then they can't learn those lessons. Of course, I'm actually quite surprised that they banned this book. I'm reading the Harper's Collins Study Bible. I will be reading a psalm, Prayer for Deliverance from Persecution. Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in deep mire, where there is no foothold. I have come into deep waters, and the flood sweeps over me. I am weary from my crying. My throat is parched. My eyes grow dim, with waiting for my God. What did I not steal? Must I now restore? O God, you know my folly. The wrongs I have done are not hidden from you. Do not let those who hope in you be put to shame because of me. O Lord God of hosts, do not let those who seek you be dishonored because of me. O God of Israel, it is for your sake that I am borne reproach, that shame has covered my face. I have become a stranger to my kindred, an alien to my mother's children. It is zeal for your house that has consumed me. The insults of those who insult you have fallen on me. When I humbled my soul with fasting, they insulted me for doing so. When I made sackcloth my clothing, I became a byword to them. I am the subject of gossip for those who sit in the gate, and the drunkards make songs about me. But as for me, my prayer is to you, O Lord, at an acceptable time, O God. In the abundance of your steadfast love, answer me. With your faithful help, rescue me from sinking in the mire, and let me be delivered from my enemies and from the deep waters. Do not let the flood sweep over me, or the deep swallow me whole, or the pit close its mouth over me. Answer me, O Lord, for your steadfast love is good. According to your abundant mercy, turn to me. Do not hide your face from your servant, for I am in distress. Make haste to answer me. Draw near to me, redeem me, set me free because of my enemies. You know the insults I receive, and my shame and dishonor. My foes are all known to you. Insults have broken my heart, so that I am in despair. I looked for pity, but there was none, and for comforters, but I found none. They gave me poison for food, and for my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink. Let their table be a trap for them, a snare for their allies. Let their eyes be darkened so that they cannot see, and make their loins tremble continually. Pour out your indignation upon them, and let your burning anger overtake them. May their camp be a desolation. Let no one live in their tents. For they persecute those whom you have struck down, and those whom you have wounded, and they attack still more. Add guilt to their guilt. May they have no acquittal from you. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living. Let them not be enrolled among the righteous. But I am lowly and in pain. Let your salvation, O God, protect me. I will praise the name of God with a song. I will magnify him with thanksgiving. This will please the Lord more than an ox, or a bull with horns and hoofs. Let the oppressed see it and be glad. You who seek God, let your hearts revive. For the Lord hears the needy, and does not despise his own that are in his bonds. What I'll be reading next is the prayer for deliverance from enemies. Be pleased, O God, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. Let those be put to shame and confusion who seek my life. Let those be turned back and brought to dishonor, who desire to hurt me. Let those who say, Aha, aha, turn back because of their shame. Let all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. Let those who love your salvation say evermore, God is great, but I am poor and needy. Hasten to me, O God. You are my help and my deliverer, O Lord. Do not delay. In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me and rescue me. Incline your ear to me and save me. Be to me a rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. Rescue me, O my God, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasps of the unjust and cruel. For you, O Lord, are my hope, my trust, O Lord, from my youth. Upon you I have learned from my birth. It was you who took me from my mother's womb. My praise is continually of you. I have been like a portent to many, but you are my strong refuge. My mouth is filled with your praise, and with your glory all day long. Do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. For my enemies speak concerning me, and those who watch for my life consult together. They say, pursue and seize that person whom God has forsaken, for there is no one to deliver. O God, do not be far from me. O my God, make haste to help me. Let my accusers be put to shame and be consumed. Let those who seek to hurt me be covered with scorn and disgrace. But I will hope continually and will praise you yet more and more. My mouth will tell of your righteous acts, of your deeds of salvation, all day long. Through their number is past my knowledge. I will come praising the mighty deeds of the Lord God. I will praise your righteousness, and yours alone. O God, from my youth you have taught me, and I still proclaim your wondrous deeds. So even to old age and gray hairs, O God, do not forsake me until I proclaim your might to all the generations to come. Your power and your righteousness, O God, reach the high heavens. You who have done great things, O God, who is like you? You who have made me see many troubles and calamities, will revive me again. From the depths of the earth, you will bring me up again. You will increase my honor and comfort me once again. I will praise you with the harp for your faithfulness, O my God. I will sing praises to you with the lyre, O Holy One of Israel. My lips will shout for joy when I sing praises to you, my soul also, which you have rescued. All day long, my tongue will talk of your righteous help, for those who try to do me harm have been put to shame and disgrace.
My name is Alexis Daniel Rojas Jimenez, and I'm a second year here at Augsburg. So my major is critical race theory and ethnicity studies. So I heard that this is for banned books, which as a critical race and ethnicity studies major, that is something that's in my avenue of life. Now I recently changed my major to this because of like recent things that have happened in my life, and it's something that I'm trying to like. I'm just in the seeding of sprouting to become a critical race scholar, and this is one of the most pivotal things when it comes to that avenue of life, and I'm just here to support and not only educate, because I never read this book before. I'm ready to kind of learn and hear some stories and share some stories along the way. Today I am going to be reading I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. Chapter 1. What surprised me most about seeing my sister's dead is the lingering smirk on her face. Her pale lips are turned up ever so slightly, and someone has filled in her patchy eyebrows with a black pencil. The top half of her face is angry, like she's ready to stab someone, and the bottom half is almost smug. This is not the Olga I knew. Olga was as meek and fragile as a baby bird. I wanted her to wear the pretty purple dress that didn't hide her body like all the other outfits. But Ama chose the bright yellow one with the pink flowers I've always hated. It was so unstylish, so classical, Olga. It made her either 4 or 8 years old. I could never decide which. Her hair is just as bad as the dress. Tight. Crunchy curls that remind me of a rich lady's poodle. How cruel to let her look like that. The bruises and gashes on her cheeks are masked with thick coats of cheap foundation, making her face haggard, even though she was only 22. Don't they pump your body full of strange chemicals to prevent your skin from stretching and puckering? To keep your face from resembling a rubber mask? Where did they find this mortician? The flea market? My poor older sister had a special talent for making herself less attractive. She was skinny and had an okay body, but she was always managed to make it look like a sack of potatoes. Her face was pale and plain, never a single drop of makeup. What a waste. I'm no fashion icon, far from it, but I do feel strongly against dressing like the elderly. Now she's doing it from beyond the grave, but this time it's not even her fault. Olga never looked or acted like a normal 22-year-old. It made me mad sometimes. Here she was, a grown-ass woman, and all she did was go to work, sit at home with her parents, and take one class each semester at the local community college. Every once in a while, she'd go shipping with Ama. or to the movies with their best friend Angie, to watch terrible romantic comedies about clumsy but adorable blonde women who fall in love with architects in the streets of New York City. What kind of life is that? Didn't she want more? Didn't she ever want to go out and grab the world by the balls? Ever since I could pick up a pen, I've wanted to be a famous writer. I want to be so successful that people stop me in the streets and ask, "Oh my God, are you Julia Reyes, the best writer who has ever graced this earth?" All I know is that I'm going to pack my bags when I graduate and say, "Peace out, motherfuckers." But not Olga. Saint Olga, the perfect Mexican daughter. Sometimes I wanted to scream at her until something switched on in her brain. But the only time I ever asked her why she didn't move out or go to a real college, she told me to leave her alone in a voice so weak and brittle. I never wanted to ask her again. Now I'll never know what Olga would have become. Maybe she would have surprised us all. Here I am, thinking all these horrible thoughts about my dead sister. It's easier to be so pissed. If I stop being angry, I'm afraid I'll fall apart until I'm a warm mound of flesh on the floor. While I stare at my chewed up nails and seek deeper into the floppy green couch, I hear Ama wailing. She really throws her body into it too. "Mija! Mija!" she screams, as she practically climbs inside the casket. Appa doesn't even try to pull her off. I can't blame him, because when he tried to calm her down a few hours ago, Amma kicked and flailed her arms until she gave him a black eye. I guess he's going to leave her alone for now. She'll tire herself out eventually. I've seen babies do that. Appa has been sitting in the back of the room all day, refusing to speak to anyone, staring off into nothing, like he always does. Sometimes I think I see his dark mustache quivering, but his eyes stay dry and clear as glass. I want to hug Amma and tell her it's going to be okay, even though it's not and never will be. But I feel almost paralyzed, like I'm underwater and made of lead. When I open my mouth, nothing comes out. Besides Amma and I haven't had that kind of relationship since I was little. We don't hug and say "I love you," like on TV shows about boring white families who live in two-story houses and talk about their feelings. She and Olga were practically best friends, and I was the odd daughter out. We've been bickering, drifting away from each other for years. I've spent so much of my life trying to avoid Amma because we always end up arguing over stupid, petty things. We once fought about an egg yolk, for instance. It's a true story. Appa and I are the only ones in my family who haven't cried. He just hangs his head and remains silent as a stone. Maybe something is wrong with us. Maybe we're messed up beyond crying. Though my eyes haven't produced tears, I've felt the grief burrow in every cell of my body. There are moments that I feel like I might suffocate, as if all my insides are tied into a tight little ball. I haven't taken a crap in almost 4 days, but I'm not about to tell Amma in this state she's in. I'll just let it build until I explode like a piñata. Amma has always been prettier than Olga. Even now, with her swollen eyes and splotchy skin, which is not the way it's supposed to be, her name is more graceful too. Amparo Montenegro Reyes. Mothers are not supposed to be more beautiful than their daughters, and daughters are not supposed to die before their mothers. But Amma is more attractive than most people. She hardly has any wrinkles and has these big, round eyes that always look sad and wounded. Her long hair is thick and dark, and her body is still slim, unlike the other mothers in the neighborhood, who are shaped like upside-down pears. Every time I walk down the street with Amma, guys whistle and honk, which makes me wish I carried a slingshot. Amma is rubbing Olga's face and crying softly now. This won't last, though. She's always quiet for a few minutes, then all of a sudden lets out a moan that makes your soul turn inside out. Now Tia Cuca is rubbing her back and telling her that Olga is with Jesus, that she can finally be in peace. But when Olga not in peace, this Jesus stuff is all a sack of crap. Once you're dead, you're dead. The only thing that makes sense to me is that Walt Whitman said about death. Look for me under your boot soles. Olga's body will turn to dirt, which will grow into trees, and then someone in the future will step on their fallen leaves. There is no heaven. There is only earth, sky, and the transfer of energy. The idea would almost be beautiful if this weren't such a nightmare. Two ladies waiting in line to see Olga in her casket begin crying. I've never seen them in my life. One is wearing a faded and billowy black dress, and the other wears a saggy skirt that looks like an old curtain. They clasp each other's hands and whisper. Olga and I didn't have much in common, but we did love each other. There are stacks and stacks of pictures to prove it. In Ama's favorite, Olga is braiding my hair. Ama says Olga used to pretend that I was her baby. She'd put me in her toy carriage and sing me songs like Gepilin, the scary Mexican clown who looks like a rapist but everyone loves for some reason. I would give anything to go back to the day she died and do things differently. I think of all the ways I could have kept Olga from getting back on that bus. I've replayed the day over and over in my head. So many times I've written down every single detail, but I still can't find the foreshadowing. When someone dies, people always say they had some sort of premonition, a sinking feeling that something awful was right around the corner. I didn't. The day felt like any other, boring, uneventful, and annoying. We had swimming for gym class that afternoon. I've always hated being in that disgusting petri dish. The idea of being dunked in everyone's pee and God knows what else is enough to give me a panic attack. And the chlorine makes my skin itch and my eyes sting. I've always tried to get out of it with elaborate and not so elaborate lies. That time I told the thin-lipped Mrs. Kowalski that I was on my period again, the 8th day in a row. She said she didn't believe me, that I was impossible for my period to be so long. Of course I was lying, but who was she to question my menstrual cycle? How instructive. Do you want to check? I asked. I'd be very happy to provide you with the empirical evidence if you want, even though I think you're violating my human rights. I regretted it as soon as it came out of my mouth. Maybe I have some sort of condition that keeps me from thinking through what I'm going to say. Sometimes it's word puke spilling out everywhere. That was too much, even for me. But I was in a particular foul mood and didn't want to deal with anyone. My mood shifts like that all the time, even before Olga died. One minute I feel okay, and then all of a sudden my energy plummets for no reason at all. It's hard to explain. Of course, Mrs. Kowalski sent me to the principal's office, and as usual, they wouldn't let me go home until my parents came to pick me up. This had happened several times last year. Everyone knows me at the principal's office already. They're often than some of the gangbangers, and it's always for running my mouth when I'm not supposed to. Whenever I enter the office, the secretary, Mrs. Maldonado, rolls her eyes and clicks her tongue. Typically, Ama meets with my principal, Mr. Potter, who tells her what a disrespectful student I am. Then Ama gasps at what I've done and says, "Julia, que malcriada," and apologizes to him over and over again in her broken English. She is always apologizing to white people, which makes me feel embarrassed. And then I feel ashamed of my shame. Ama punishes me for 1 or 2 weeks, depending on how severe my behavior is. And then a few months later, it happens again. Like I said, I don't know how to control my mouth. Ama tells me, ¿Cómo te gusta la mala vida? And I guess she's right, because I always end up making things more difficult for myself. I used to be a model student, skipped third grade and everything, but now I'm a troublemaker. Olga had taken the bus that day because her car was in the shop to get her brakes replaced. Ama was supposed to pick her up, but because she had to deal with me at school, she couldn't. If I'd shut my mouth, things would have worked out differently. But how was I supposed to know? When Olga got off the bus to transfer to another one across the street, she didn't see the light had already turned green because she was looking at her phone. The bus honked to warn her, but it was too late. Olga stepped into the busy street at the wrong time. She got hit by a semi. Not just hit, though smashed. Whenever I think of my sister's crushed organs, I want to scream in a field of flowers until I'm hoarse. 2 of the witnesses said that she was smiling right before it happened. It's a miracle that her face was okay enough to have an open casket. She was dead by the time the ambulance arrived. Even though the man driving couldn't have seen her because she was blocked by the bus and the light was green, and Olga shouldn't have crossed one of the busiest streets in Chicago with her face in her phone, Ama cursed the driver up and down until she lost her voice. She got really creative too. She had always scolded me for saying the word damn, which is not even a bad word, and here she was telling the driver and God to fuck their mothers and themselves. I just watched her with my mouth hanging open. We all knew it wasn't the driver's fault, but Ama needed someone to accuse. She hasn't blamed me directly, but I can see it in her big, sad eyes every time she looks at me. My nosy aunts are whispering behind me now. I can feel their eyes latch to the back of my head again. I know they're saying that this is my fault. They've never liked me because they think I'm trouble. When I dyed chunks of my hair bright blue, those drama queens almost needed to be put on stretchers and rushed to the hospital. They act as if I'm some sort of devil child because I don't like to go to church and would rather read books than socialize with them. Why is that a crime, though? They're boring. Plus, they have no idea how much I loved my sister. I've had enough of their whispering, so I turned around to give them a dirty look. That's when I see Lorena come in. Thank God. She's the only person who can make me feel better right now. Everyone turns to stare at her in her outrageously high heels, tight black dress, and excessive makeup. Lorena is always drawing attention to herself. Maybe that'll give them something else to gossip about. She hugs me so tight she nearly cracks my ribs. Her cheap cherry body spray fills my nose and mouth. Ama doesn't like Lorena because she thinks she's wild and slutty, which isn't untrue. But she has been my friend since I was 8 and is more loyal than anyone I've ever known. I whisper to her that my tias are talking about me, and they're blaming me for what happened to Olga. That they're making me so angry I want to smash all the windows with my bare fists. Fuck those noisy viejas, Lauren says, waving her hand dramatically, shooting them eye daggers. I turn around to see if they've stopped staring when I notice a dark man in the back crying quietly into a clothed handkerchief. He's wearing a gray suit, shiny gold watch. He seems familiar, but I can't place his face. He's probably my uncle or something. My parents are always introducing me to strangers and telling me we're related. There are dozens of people here I've never met. When I turn around, he's gone, and Olga's friend Angie comes running in, looking like she was the one hit by the semi. She's beautiful, but damn, is she an ugly crier. Her skin is like a bright pink rag someone has wrung out. As soon as she sees Olga, she starts howling, almost worse than Ama. I wish I knew the right thing to say, but I don't. I never do.
So my name is Nasim. I'm a transfer student from Normandale. This is my first year at Augsburg. I'm a social work major, and I'm very passionate about social activism, social justice, everything like that, and of course, resistance against oppression. And I have a cat, and her name is Sophie. Well, just the concept and idea of books getting banned, especially the books that are getting banned, makes me really angry, and I feel like this opportunity gives me a place to put that anger towards, because this act of resistance is obviously going against what the oppressors had intended by banning these books, and I love being part of resistance in that type of way. Yeah, so this book is The Poet X, and it's by Elizabeth Acevedo. And it's kind of a memoir written through poems. I'm going to start reading from the poem After Skating. When Aman walks me to the train, he immediately pulls me to him. We never kissed so publicly, but with his lips on mine, I realize I want the same thing. And I know that it's stupid. Too easy to run into someone from the block, or one of Mommy's church friends. But I just want to keep this moment going. When he tugs on my hand and pulls me even closer, I let him make me forget. Twins' anger, confirmation class, the train smell, the people around us, or the stand clear of the closing doors, please. And I know people are probably staring, probably thinking horny high school kids can't keep their hands to themselves. But I don't care, because when our lips meet for those 3 stops before I get off, it's beautiful and real and what I wanted. We are probably the only thing worth watching anyways. Maybe we're doing our train audience a favor, reminding them of first love. This body on fire. Walking home from the train, I can't help but think Aman's made a junkie out of me, begging for that hit, eyes wider with hunger, blood on fire, licking the flesh, waiting for the refresh of his mouth. Fiend begging for an inhale, whatever the price, just so long as it's real nice. Real nice. Blood on ice. Ice waiting for that warmth, that heat, that fire. He's turned me into a fiend, waiting for his next word, hanging on his last breath. Always waiting for the next time. The shit and the fan. I hear Mommy's yelling through the apartment door even before I turn the key, which isn't right because she shouldn't be home yet. It isn't even 4 o'clock. I mean, I did miss my stop because I didn't want to quit Aman's kisses. Se lo estaba comiendo, had her tongue down his throat. Some little dirty boy. I had to get off the train a stop early. And I know then. Mommy's eyes were a fan, and my makeout session on the train was the shit hitting it. Lucky me, she's yelling from her bedroom, and I let myself into the one I share with Twin, click the door shut, and slide down to put my head between my legs. I don't know how much time has passed before Twin pushes open the door, and even through the wall of his silence, he understands something is wrong. He crouches next to me. But I can't warn him of the storm that's coming. I can't even be grateful he's speaking to me again. I try to make all the big of me small. Miracles. My parents are still yelling in the bedroom, and because I never yell back at them, I don't scream at my father when he calls me a cuero. I don't yell at how the whole block whispers when I walk down the street about all the women who made a cuero out of him. But men are never called cueros. I don't yell anything because for the first time in a long time, I'm praying for a miracle, pinching myself and hoping this is all one bad dream, trying to unhear my mother, turn my kissing ugly. My father calls me the names all the kids have called me since I grew breasts. God, if you're a thing with ears, please. The routine is the same every school year. I go straight home after school, and since Mommy says that I'm la niña de la casa, it's my job to help her out around the house. So after school, I eat an apple, my favorite snack, wash dishes and sweep, dust around Mommy's altar to La Virgen Maria, and avoid Papi's TV if he's home, because he hates when I clean in front of it while he's trying to watch Las Noticias or a Red Sox game. It's one of the few things Twins and I argue about, how he never has to do half the cleaning shit I do, but is still better liked by Mommy. He helps me when he's home, folds the laundry or scrubs the tub, but he won't get in trouble if he doesn't. I hear one of Mommy's famous sayings in my ear. Mira muchacha, life ain't fair. That's why we have to earn our entrance into heaven. Altar boy. Twin is easier for Mommy to understand. He likes church. As much of a science geek as he is, he doesn't question the Bible the way that I do. He's been an altar boy since he was 8, could quote the New Testament in Spanish and English since he was 10, leads discussions at Bible study even better than the priest. But no disrespect to Father Sean. He even volunteered at the Bible camp this summer, and now that school started, he'll miss the stations of the cross dioramas his campers made from popsicle sticks, the stick figure drawings of Mary in the manger, the mosaic made of marbles that he hung in the window of our room. The one that I threw out this afternoon while I was cleaning, watched it fall between the fire escape grates. For a second, it caught the sun in 100 colors, until it smashed against the street. I'll apologize to Twin later, say it was an accident. He'll forgive me. He'll pretend to believe me. Twin's name. For as long as I can remember, I've only ever called my brother Twin. He actually is named after a saint, but I've never liked to say his name. It's a nice name or whatever, even starts with an X like mine. But it just doesn't feel like the brother I know. His real name is for Mommy, teachers, Father Sean. But Twin, only I can call him that. A reminder of the pair will always be.